ProPlus, let's just take a glimpse at the granular rating value that's really the core of ProPlus. So let's take a look at the sector rotation page, and many of you by now will have seen the granular breakdown, and as you know, we do a 1 to 5 buy sell rating. And a strong buy essentially is anything that's a 0.6 to a 1, and a buy is anything at about 0.25 to a 6. So let's go back, and when you sign up, obviously you'll see in between the My Portfolio section and Watch List, ProPlus on the navigation bar can be found here. So the positions here, my top positions, they are everything that you have entered already into the My Portfolio section. And as you can see here as well, we can see the granular breakdown of these names. So if you're not familiar with the granular breakdown and really haven't been paying attention to those, you could see here, let's say Netflix is a 0.97. Obviously, that would be stronger than a Google, which is a 0.84. And we'll discuss that a little bit more. On the right side, you can see here we're looking at the strongest weekly positions. You can click on these tabs and it will drop down and it will gather the information. So you can also see here the strongest monthly positions, weakest weekly positions, and so on. So let's drive down here. And what we do is we default this list. This is the entire S&P 500. And it's really not a portfolio or watch list. It's really to look at the entire S&P and gather information on what you should be looking at. Again, you'll be getting emails every day for unusual strength and unusual weakness, that anything was triggered the previous day. So also we have some scans here: unusual strength, unusual weakness, neutral, overbought or oversold. We will be adding a couple others. If anybody has any suggestions on what they'd like to see, please feel free to email us. So we can do an ascending, descending order. So we can see here that we're starting with the strongest names in the S&P and working our way down. The one-day change, you can see here, we're looking for anything that yesterday had a tick down or potentially a tick up. Let's go back. We could also see here the counter trend, and we're breaking the counter trend down to the granular level again. Many of you will know that we have an overbought and approaching overbought level that is just our typical default settings. An overbought, we default that signal to a counter trend of a negative 73. So for those of you that really want to keep a close eye on some stocks that you're watching, and you're a little more aggressive and you don't want to sell at an overbought level and you think you could squeeze out a little bit more, now you can actually see the granular counter trend value. So let's just take a look here. And we could see here really what some of the most overbought names are, really by the granular level here. And we could see some of these names, like Touchmark is actually probably one of the most overbought names currently in the S&P. So let's go back here, take a look at the S&P itself. And you can also do an ascending, descending order for the alerts, looking at unusual volume, unusual strength, overbought, oversold. So let's just take a look here. Let's take a look at Ford. Okay, so what we see here is Ford has been a strong buy for a couple months now, and we could get a general sense whether or not we should be entering this position if there's any weakness that's setting in over the last several days or last several weeks. And we can see here essentially that probably 20 days ago, and this is showing you the 20-day rating value trend. 20 days ago, the rating value was a strong buy, but it was a 0.81, which is not as strong as a 1. And it's been slowly ticking up and gaining strength. And I believe it was gaining strength into earnings. So we can see here we have provided some verbiage that I think we have about 100 different scenarios that will lend some guidance, telling you what you should do if you are long or if you want to buy that position. But this will help alleviate some guesswork if a strong buy has been a strong buy for a couple hundred days, even 20, 30 days. And I'll show you some better examples of that. So let's take a look at a name that has some unusual strength. So what we see here is a pretty good sense of the rating value gaining strength in international game technology. Now, you will receive an email for this, and what we have here are basic descriptive statistics. We will be adding a confidence level here as well. But you can notice that ITG had a strong trade trigger 10 days ago, and you would have received this 10 days ago. Now, we only display unusual strength up to 10 days of the trigger, and same thing with unusual weakness up to 10 days. Now, what we're showing here is we're going back 30 years and we're looking at 6 unusual strength trade triggers. So we have identified 6 high probability setups, and we are saying here that 56% of the time IGT was up at the 30 days after the trigger occurred. So it's not a realized gain, it's just saying the stock was up 30 days later. Now we can see here that on average from this trade trigger, the trade was up 8%, a little over 8% of the time over after 30 days. And then on average, the loss, the worst loss, or the average loss, not the worst loss, was about 4%. So this is not a realized gain. This is essentially just looking at if the stock was up 30 days later. And the reason we did this was many different people have different time frames for their investing, so we just did a general gauge using 30 days. So let's dive down here. Let's look for some unusual weakness. And we could see ISRG. And again, this will send an email, and I believe that the email would have been triggered on July 10th of unusual weakness, and you can get a pretty good sense. For those that are extremely aggressive in their trading and speculative, you could use this. Which we don't like buying on weakness, but for those that are trying to pick something off on the bottom, you can see here Apple has been slowly gaining some strength with the rating value. So on, I forget what date it was, but Apple had an extremely oversold level. The commentary would have said, or the verbiage would have said, expect some heightened upside volatility because of the depressed oversold condition, and you would have received that email as well. Also, you'll notice that the chart page has now defaulted to a new look, and what we're giving you here is the water look here, all the information here. The counter trend is actually now more dynamic. That actually moves according to the counter trend rating. So it's fairly basic, but much more powerful, and it gives you a better sense of whether or not you should be entering a position or not based on the real granularity of the rating value. You can also default to the original view if you like from here and switch back. So again, we look forward to hearing from you on any ideas you might have for enhancing the platform. We'll be doing some additional upgrades for some additional scans. If you have any questions, please feel free to email us. Thank you.